WrestleTalk!
Randy Orton's back! But not on this episode of Raw. I am Luke Owen, DAD. I'm joined by the Professor, the Truth, Dan Layton, your Jam That Champion, who will be putting his title on the line this Saturday at our WWE Survivor Series party at the Long Arm Pub and Brewery in Shoreditch in London. Click the link in the video description down below to get your tickets.
A retaining is on the cards, everybody.
He'll be defending that belt against Pete Quinnell, the former Jam That Champion Pete Quinnell. The predictions for that will be going out tomorrow here on the WrestleTalk podcast channel. While you're here, please do press the subscribe button if you haven't already. Do give us a thumbs up as well. Leave a comment down below with what you thought of this episode of Monday Night Raw. If you're watching us live, join the chat. If you're watching,
as they say in Wales.
If you're watching this live, join the chat, get your voice heard. But if you want your comment read out on the air, WrestleTalk.com/support will read out all of them above the $5 amount. And we're going to kick things off today talking about the return of Randy Orton.
There he is, look. Except is he there?
Yeah.
He's there, but he's not there.
Do you want to do that bit? No, I say let's go in order.
Yeah, let's just do that. Let's do the tail end, the beginning, and the headline.
The bookends of this show.
Yeah.
Booker T's own bookends for this
show.
Because it opened with a Drew McIntyre promo, fully heel Drew.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't like, last week we were like, is it a heel turn? Has he joined the Judgment Day? Is it just he's siding with Judgment Day but hasn't really fully turned heel? No. He is out and out a heel now. He was just fully on heel in this promo, but not changing anything about the Drew McIntyre character. His justification for this is still the same, and I like that in my heel turns.
Yeah, I mean, I absolutely adored everything about this. Like from the opening of the show, there being no music, there being no entrance, there being no welcome to the show. Wonder what Drew McIntyre is going to say. He was just there. The light was already done. It kind of marked the change for me. It was that whole thing of the turn happened, and not a lot was said about it in the moment. And now here it is to officially confirm 100% it's gone. And then the substance of what he had to say basically boils down to the one line that I wrote down, which I really liked. If you're a fan of Drew McIntyre, don't have to explain myself. It's the heel energy I love. He feels justified in what he's done. He's behaving authentically. He's behaving consistently as far as he's concerned. I loved that. I loved this whole segment.
I also thought it was interesting that his justification for... He said, I've not joined the Judgment Day. Mm-hmm. I am just siding with the Judgment Day for this War Games. And the reason why is because Rhea Ripley gave me the one thing that I wanted. And that's Jey Uso inside a steel cage. The thing I find most interesting about that is nothing to do with Seth Rollins and the World Heavyweight Championship.
Right.
He didn't say, I want to get in this match so I can have another crack at Seth and that world title. His sole focus is Jey.
Yeah.
Which for me kind of takes Drew out of the title picture for the time being.
Well, he lost the opportunity, and in that instance had no one to blame but himself. Like, there was no interference, there was no cash-in, he just straight up lost the match. And so it's now that thing of, again, he feels justified, but really I think we're all on the side of who have you got to blame now but you.
It's what he said on Raw last week. He shook Seth's hand and was like, I've got to work my way back up the rankings.
Yeah.
So... a lot of people were fantasy booking last week. He could pin Seth Rollins, and that sets up another world title match. No, I think we're not getting Drew versus Seth again for a little while.
I think so.
Because we're going to be taking Drew away from that title picture because he, as you say, needs to work his way back up. He even said that himself on last week's episode. So I thought that was quite interesting. His sole focus right now is Jey Uso. And, well, then he got to beat him later tonight as well. So
yeah.
He's already beaten him. And then he wants to beat him further again inside War Games.
To sort of cause him a lot of blunt force trauma.
Yeah.
LA Knight trademark.
That brought out Jey Uso, who said yeet a lot.
He did say, give me a hell yeet, is something I think we should expect soon enough.
Yep. Look, as someone who is on the
dad side.
I'm nearing 40.
Yeah.
I feel this is going to grow old quite quickly. Because I wrote in my notes here, man, Drew is so much cooler than Jey Uso is. I'm there looking at Drew, and Jade's coming down and being like, yeet, yeet. And I was like, man, Drew's just so much cooler than you are.
Oh, DAD.
I know.
With your man in his leather jacket and his, yeah. No, I mean, like, Drew's cool. He's got a cool energy about him, but yeet works for me. I love it.
And Judgment Day came out to back up Drew, and then you'll never guess what the rest of the War Games team sort of back, this and the other. And Adam Pearce got between them, and he was like, "No, we're not doing this. We're not getting to a war now. I need you lots to decide which one of you is going to be fighting, representing your teams for the advantage match later on tonight. I need your answer by 9 p.m. I like putting time limits on things. But it tells you tells you as a viewer as well, I need to make sure I'm watching by this time to find out what it is.
Exactly.
And then that's going to be... I actually thought when he was saying 9 o'clock, I was like, is that when the match is going to be? Because what else is going to be the main event of this show? It's not going to be Nakamura and Chad. What else in the main event? So that's how we ended that there. They had Judgment Day hung out in the Judgment Den, and Priest was talking about how he should be the guy to do it, but Rhea said, really, we should wait till Drew gets here. And then when Drew arrived, Drew said, I should be the guy to do it. And they said, yeah, all right, you be the guy to do it. Show us why it's worth having you on our team. And Team Cody picked Jey to be the representative. Very nice, that's smart, because that is bookending the show. I actually thought they might pick Sammy, because I was like, well, the heels are going to win. So Sammy's the guy who can take the pin. That was kind of my theory of it. Like that's the underdog Sammy sort of methodology. But no, they went with Jey, which I thought was quite nice, because that's what we set up at the start of the show. They also announced as well on this that Adam Pearce said, I need to know who the 5th member of your team is by the end of the night, which is what they did on SmackDown with Team Flair. That led us into our main event, which was Drew McIntyre versus Jey Uso. And man, this crowd were knackered.
Well, they'd given everything. Yeah. And at several points in this show, I'm going to shout out Grand Rapids, because what a crowd. Like, honestly, throughout the show, really being that 11th man kind of thing, 12th man. Just brilliant. Yeah, they were so good.
They were on fire for so much of this show. Like, the opening match with Raquel and Nia, they were on fire for. The Becky Xia match, they were on fire for. The women's 4-way match, Gargano. They really got into. They were so into Gargano and Kaiser. It meant that when it got to Nakamura and Gable, you could almost see people go like, I mean, I'm actually
a bit knackered.
I'm quite tired.
Yeah.
And then I was like, that's all right. They'll come back up for the main event. But even in this main event, they were like, actually, great. Like, I've seen a lot now. I've had my fill. I'm quite full. And so they were kind of like not as into this as they were other things on the show. And in fairness, the match was fine. Like, it was an okay main event. And Drew just won. Like, out of nowhere, he just hit the Future Shock DDT and won. I said in the office when I came in, like Ollie said, how was Raw? And I was like, it felt like in the main event, the referee suddenly went to both of them. Oh, by the way, you've only got 1 minute left. And they were like, oh, scrap the 5 minutes of other stuff we had planned. Just go to the finish.
Because of the way we format the show, we don't really say this right at the front. I thought this show was amazing. Yeah. I thought this was an outstanding episode of Raw. Possibly my favorite of the year. And I know you agree. Like, and yet it's a sign of how good the show was at the main event was like the 5% where I was like, oh, that didn't fully work for me in the way I wanted it to. I don't know if it was because of timing, things getting rushed or whatever. And yeah, I didn't even not like it. Like, there was the Future Shock thing. I found kind of interesting, the idea that maybe he will stop using the Claymore because that's a very babyface move.
Yeah, because you can do the 3,
exactly.
2, 1.
And he's teased that before and then not bothered. I like the idea of him just grabbing someone and dropping. Someone I saw on Twitter complained about Sasha Banks losing to Alexa Bliss with the DDT, and it's like, well, yes, you just drove your head into the ground. It's like it hurt.
It's supposed to be a finishing maneuver.
It used to. It was the old thing that now the super kick is. What happened to the switch in music is what happened to the DDT. Like,
it's Canadian Destroyer.
There it is.
Canadian Destroyer was that was P.D. Williams' finishing move. He invented the Canadian Destroyer. That was his finish. And now it's just a move that everybody does in every match ever.
And it doesn't hurt them, and they just do another one. They piss all over it. But like,
I've said this before. I went to an indie show in 2018, 2019. In the opener, with 2 nobodies, or 2 young lions going out there. They did a Canadian Destroyer on the apron, and that was a setup for a near fall.
Yeah.
And it was at that point, me and Ollie was like, I think I think they've misunderstood the assignment here.
It's a bit of a shame because then this is kind of an evidence of the other side of it, which is where imagine Drew McIntyre grabs your arms behind your head, wraps his legs around you, and drops your head on the floor. That's going to knock you out. It's a good finishing move, but it did feel kind of out of nowhere. I certainly was looking down at my notes and then looked back up and was like, oh, that's the end.
It felt like we hadn't got to the final third of the match yet.
Yeah.
That's more my thing. Like, I don't mind the Future Shock being the finish. I like the Future Shock. It should be a finish.
Yeah.
Like, that is his secondary finish along with the Claymore. It shouldn't just be a 2-count machine. It's what people used to say about John Cena's Springboard Stunner. Like, Austin hated that move because he was like, it never puts anyone away. So why would I care about that move?
But one of my favorites is the pop-up powerbomb Kevin Owens does, because that's something that comes out of nowhere and could just like off you. You're winded, you can't breathe.
But like it's more a case of that move finishes matches. So then it uses like when people do kick out of it, that 2-count, that near fall means something.
Yeah.
So I don't mind him winning with the Future Shock. It was more that it felt like the match had not got into its third gear.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Like it ended halfway through its middle act.
Yeah, I'm kind of waiting to get to the end because again, it's that thing of like there's so much of this segment from the beginning right through the end that I just absolutely loved. But then there are also elements where it was a bit wobbly. Do you know what I mean?
So yeah, the end of the match, like Drew wins, the baddies have got the advantage. Everyone runs down, everyone does their big brawling and all this and the other. Before the match had started, Cody had said, like, because they needed to find their 5th guy. And so Sammy said, we can call anyone from SmackDown? And I was like, yeah, that's fine. So obviously he went to go off call Kevin.
Yeah.
Seth was like, I know someone I can go call them. And Cody was like, I know a guy I can call as well. The crowd reacted like, because they already knew. This is the thing of like, oh, the casual audience doesn't know. This crowd knew.
Yeah, we know.
Because it'd been reported it was going to be Randy Orton. This crowd knew it was Randy Orton. So yeah, casuals don't know what's going on the internet. Everyone knew this was a thing. And when they came out and Cody grabbed the microphone and he was like, we've got our 5th guy and it's someone I've got a legacy with. Big pop from the crowd. He's an apex predator. Big reaction from the crowd. He's got his voices in his head. Randy, Randy, Randy. And Cody Rhodes says, they know who it is. And the show ends. And I was like, well, that was crap. Like,
I'm not nearly as down on this as you are. But
like, that was really lame.
Yeah. Go on.
Okay, so I see 2 better options of this. Number 1, Randy Orton. Bring out Randy Orton and Randy Orton is there. Now, the reason why WWE have done it this way of announcing Randy Orton ahead of time is because Twitter has driven itself into a frenzy thinking that CM Punk is coming back. Someone like tagged me being like, this guy has spotted there's a tiny X.
I can't.
Like it's
I saw that.
There's some like Space Jam levels of reaching like that. The big final dunk here to like that CM Punk is coming back. And so they had to announce him ahead of time, but Randy wasn't going to be there at the show. So they have to announce Randy Orton without having the Randy Orton return. So you can't do it way number 1, which is that Randy Orton is there. In which case, you do it way number 2, which is, and his name is Randy Orton, and you let the crowd chant. Because we don't get a pop.
Right.
You don't get the return reaction or the announcement reaction because Cody just goes, they've said it.
I think that's fair.
And then the show just ends, and the crowd are like,
yeah.
Oh, okay.
I think, like I say, I'm not the most down on it. I enjoyed the fire. I enjoyed Cody being Cody. I enjoyed that the crowd were chanting Randy's name. I enjoyed all of that stuff. I think it is just missing that moment of screaming down the mic. That's bad, bro. Screaming down the mic, Randy Orton, like, and having the whoa. I'm trying to think what was the do you remember when Vince announced the NWO were going to be at No Way Out and he just sort of said their names and they were on the screen doing this? Like, that kind of worked.
A lethal dose of poison.
Not the one where he spun around, but when he stands in the ring like an episode or so later saying, after Flair's refused to give up or whatever, and he just points to the screen, and on the screen is the 3 of them, and that kind of got the reaction from the crowd. Like, you don't... I guess it's similar to the Ibushi thing at Blood and Guts, which was funny at the time. I didn't really get that, so it's, you know, maybe there's an inconsistency on my part, but yeah, it was weird. I'll give you that. Yeah, it didn't bother me as much, and I think the benefit of it is that it does save the I hear voices return pop moment for Chicago,
which absolutely
is going to be great.
Which is going to be great, and Randy couldn't be there.
Yeah,
so you had to.
And they've been backed into a corner, and Oh God, I hope that the Chicago crowd don't turn on him.
I get why they did it. I'm not down on that.
Yeah.
It's the execution of doing it. Like, not even saying, and his name is Randy Orton. His name is Randy Orton, to get that reaction from the crowd, because that way you get 2 pops. And then, 10 minutes afterwards, they just put up a graphic which has got Randy Orton on it. So it's like, I don't know, it just felt like this was the less good version of doing the already not optimal version of a Randy Orton return. So, but it didn't sour me on the episode. Absolutely, it was just like at the end of it, I was like, it reminded me like the Ibushi announcement for Blood and Guts, which is that the audience there were ready to see Ibushi come out, and Ibushi was not there, and so everyone was like, yeah, okay, that's disappointing.
Yeah,
and we kind of just got that again here. So I felt bad for them, but yeah, they're backed into a corner because Twitter has got itself into this absolute frenzy, and they are just trying to manage expectations.
Like, have you seen my favorite tweet? There have been several good tweets today. Would you believe?
No.
On that absolute nightmare. But one of them was someone being like, because Nakamura cut a promo on Instagram stories, being like, "You're close, I know you are," kind of thing, and someone went, "You," 3 letters, CM 2 letters, Punk 4 letters, 3 is in between 2 and he's coming. Like, and you do 4 times 2 is Nakamura. Nakamura is 8 letters. Nakamura and Punk. Like, it's like they're really, it's just simple maths. They're really backing themselves, and they continue to. And even, I will say, I fell for it as well. They announced even more tickets are being released, and I guess it's because, well, why not? You can pack the place out. Well.
Like, they had a big LED screen. The tickets sold out, so they took down the LED screen to put more tickets on sale. And they sold out.
Yeah.
So they're like, well, fine. We'll just sell this place out 3 times over, because that's how big WWE is right now.
My only concern is that thing we've worked ourselves into, we, collectively. I've always said, believe it when I see it, you're the same. There are going to be people who are like, dude, disappointed. I just don't want that to happen for the people who I know are going to be working their ass off in the ring.
Dude, we said this at All Out 2019. When that show ended, then there was no CM Punk. We had people complain to us that CM Punk was not on the show. And I was like, why? They never promised it. I know he was at StarCast, but that doesn't mean that he was going to be on the pay-per-view. Like, he wouldn't debut for that company for another 2 years. But people just have decided this is happening, and there are this coming Saturday is going to be a wild time on Twitter, because a lot of reporters have said the word from WWE is Punk is not there. Punk is not going to be on the show. Triple H apparently had a prepared answer for the Fastlane or Payback, which I think it was Fastlane media press conference, because he was expecting people to ask him about Punk, and no one did, which is why they gave it to Sean in the end to report on Fightful Select. They were fully expecting people to ask about Punk, and Triple H had a prepared answer of, no, he's not coming in. But then Sean has also said, I wouldn't be surprised if they've had a call this week. I'm not saying he won't be there. It's a 20% chance that he might be on the show. But the likelihood is he's not.
Yeah.
I think Nakamura not doing the open challenge, which some people thought, the mystery man's not being there, I think that's quelled some of it, but we won't find out. But Twitter is just going to be this mess on Sunday.
And to kind of bring it back to the show rather than go off into a CM Punk conversation for the millionth time this year, I think the reason I feel like I want it to work for them so bad, and I don't want the crowd to turn on them for something that's not their fault, is because I actually think throughout the show, and as you'll see when we do our predictions tomorrow, there's an awful lot to work with on this show. There's an awful lot of interesting character stuff in the women's War Games match and in the men's War Games matches. There's a lot of intricacies and layers and spinning plates and things that have been going on. And while the shows over the past few months, let's be honest, we've been getting here since May. Really, if we're really honest about it, we've known War Games was coming in November. This has been what's on the cards the whole time. So when we get here, and I'm intrigued to see the match, and I'm excited because of the Drew turn, because of the interesting stuff that's going on in the Judgment Day, and the stuff that's going on with Jey and Cody being on SmackDown and all of this stuff. I'm like, I want them to have the opportunity for that to be well received and not a hostile crowd who are pissed because CM Punk didn't show.
I don't think that crowd is going to be a problem. I do not think the Chicago crowd is going to be a problem. I think Twitter will be a mess the
Right.
following
As
day.
long as the live crowd isn't.
I don't think the live crowd are going to be upset if Punk is not there. I don't think they're going to tear over the show.
Because as we saw with this episode, the crowd can make something like 20 times more special.
Absolutely, yeah.
And when I'm talking about the things that, like the through lines, like I'm thinking when Drew's doing his promo, he drew a line with Cody attacking Jimmy on SmackDown. They're two sides of the same coin. Like they both have a problem with the person they attack them, but like Cody's more willing to forgive Jey. It's like, well, hang on, why can you support what Cody's doing but not what I'm doing?
Also,
that kind of feel logic.
And no one's telling Cody to just get over it.
Exactly.
Which is what I kept getting told.
All that stuff.
The other thing as well that I absolutely loved about this, I'd actually say the thing I loved the most about this main event, because the match itself was fine, and I thought the finish came out of nowhere a bit too quickly. And the post-match reveal of Randy Orton was not actually a reveal, and that was a bit of a letdown. But I thought Jey was really good in the post-match.
This is where I was about to go.
Yeah. It's because Jey's selling of the loss was great. Because he then had essentially two conflicting emotions. Number one, I've lost this for the team. My team is now going into War Games with the disadvantage. I've been on the other side with the advantage, so I know how important that is going into a War Games. Secondly, he was not present when Cody said, my guy's in, I've made the call, we can do business, we're all going to be on the same team together. So Jey's found out there and then that it's Randy Orton. And the last time Randy Orton was in WWE was being dicked over by the Bloodline, which included Jey Uso.
Yeah.
And I thought Jey sold all of that really, really well.
And it was that literally, taking the words right out of my mouth, that's literally what I was about to say, because then it's also fed in with, earlier on in the show, Seth and Jey are having a conversation, and Jey's sort of giving all this. He's in fake it till you make it mode. And Seth says, like, it's going to be tricky. And he kind of, like, lets it falter a little bit. And he's actually quite, there was a vulnerability to the performance he was giving. Give him an Emmy. But he's, like, really played with that idea of, like, square peg in the round hole. Everyone's out to get him. But he's still trying to all he can do is prove that he's on the good side. He's got Sammy. He's got Cody. And now to a degree, he's got Seth, but there are still your Kevin Owens who didn't like him. You've got your Drews who don't like him, all that stuff, and the inner conflict of it all. The last time he was in War Games, him and Sammy were on the same team, but for the other side, all of that stuff. Drew was on the other side in both ways. I thought his performance was really great, and this idea that he is the weak one, the vulnerable one. That's what adds to so many wrinkles to what could happen in War Games. And we get into it in the predictions tomorrow, but I can see the babyface team winning. I can also see Jey in a pin and the babyface team losing and it being another, nail to hammer in to Jey Uso's story kind of thing.
I'm not on the predictions video tomorrow because it's you and Pete fighting for the championship at our live show this weekend. I don't think the Judgment Day are winning.
Right.
My reasons for that are twofold. Number one, I don't see the point in them winning. And number two, this is supposed to be the end of it. This whole deal is supposed to be, this is the end of Team Cody, Team Sammy, Team Jey, Team whatever, feuding with the Judgment Day, which they've been doing for the better part of 7 months. This is supposed to be the final chapter of that. So I don't see the point then of Judgment Day winning. Like, the only benefit I could see is the goodies winning. Because if I really think that we need to lower the Judgment Day down, not down the card, but let's slot them back into the tag team division and let Imperium be the new top heel group. Because I think the crowd are starting to get a bit tired of the Judgment Day being the top heel group on Raw.
My only disagreement there is you've got Senior Money in the Bank, so you don't want to have him go down a little bit. I think there's an opportunity to do.
I mean, yeah. Him, but okay, so Gun Priest having the main event, but what I mean is every Raw main event.
Yeah, sure, I agree with
the Judgment Day being on top, and it's therefore so I think we just sort of need to end this now, draw a line under Team Goodies versus the Judgment Day, and just find something new for all of these lads to do. But let's get into your Ultrachats on this one, your Alpha Chats. Get them in WrestleTalk.com/support. We'll read out all of them above the $5 US amount. And Will Campbell here says, "Hi guys, excited to see Randy be back this weekend. I was fearful that we wouldn't ever see him again because of his back. Also, I love how Becky made it her mission to put over the rest of the women's roster because hoo-wee, was that match with Xia great." It was, and we will get to that very, very shortly. But yeah,
Whacking him with his back immediately into a War Games match does give me the willies. I won't lie to you.
Yeah, his doctors have told him, don't wrestle because your back is really bad. And his response to that was like, well, I'm going to go back and wrestle.
Yeah.
Valid Mamadapudi has been a member for 30 months in a row, says, na-na-na-na, na-na-na-na, na-na, Randall Keith, Randall Keith, Randall Keith, na-na-na-na-na-na-na.
You got there.
Randall Keith, Randall Keith.
It.
I figured it well, but it felt like the Na-Na song. I know why they did it this way. I just wish we saw him on the Tron at the very least. Yeah? Moose here says 2 things. Jay's uneasy reaction to Randy coming back was perfect. Also, did you get the feeling that Priest is only the leader of the War Games match in name only? Rhea was still the person making the decisions for the match.
That was another thing on my list that I loved when he came over and he said, I'm the leader of this team. And Rhea went, you're the leader of this team in the War Games match. So, like, she just said it very casually, but it was like that kind of soft diplomacy from Mami. I was a big fan.
Love how she's made it feel like it was Priest's decision to wait for Drew.
Yeah.
I mean, because Rhea is the leader of Judgment Day.
Yeah.
Priest believes he is, but Rhea actually is. It's great stuff. One watcher says, everyone, Orton is back. Yay, me. That's awesome. But Cody fighting Drew again? Man, I miss WCPW. Oathkeeper65 says, WWE didn't really have any other option. If they didn't say anything, the internet would put themselves into a shoot on the slim possibility that the muffin-loving Messiah was showing up and would bury the show because WWE didn't say he wasn't coming. I've said my piece on this, but like, yeah, I'm not saying that they shouldn't have announced it because they should have. I thought this was the least optimal way of doing it. William Rosmer says, all announcing Orton was done. All announcing Orton has done is say Punk isn't in the War Games match.
It's also announced that Orton is in the War Games match and coming back. Let's not forget he's been out of action for.
I think William's point there is like it doesn't mean that Punk isn't debuting or Punk isn't.
I see what you're saying.
It's not saying that CM Punk is not on the show.
Also, I have a pitch that Randy Orton is heel when he comes back. Like, he gets involved in the match, he gets the babyface pop, and then during it, he turns.
Just hits Jay.
Yeah.
He's the last person in, goes in, hits Jay, and leaves.
Yeah. I don't know. There's something spicy about it. I like it.
Powerpackers90 has been a member for 27 months in a row. Has said, I mean, Randy is getting booed. Chicago sports fans hate the St. Louis team. Remember, Chicago was cheering for Jinder because F Randy.
I think that's a bit different.
I also think it's a different audience. It's a different time. And Randy Orton's not been here for like 18 months. So I think there's a slightly different aura to Randy Orton.
But if they boo him because Chicago sports fans hate St. Louis teams...
Look, I've been told that people from Chicago are knobs. So like it could be very true. I don't know if that's a true fact or not. But if that's a true thing, they'll just boo him because of a sports thing. Yeah, I might believe what someone told me.
Do you know how far away Chicago is from St. Louis? Was it because did St. Louis steal the Rams? I don't know.
I have no blues clue, mate. Anyway, let's get into the rest of this show because we have gone long on that opening segment. Although it did cover,
we covered a lot.
We covered a lot on this show. I made this not a joke about this, but I made reference to this in my edited review. But it felt like that Brandon Thurston graph that showed the amount of women's matches on a card. Comparatively of Impact, Raw, SmackDown, NXT, Collision, and Dynamite, kind of lit a fire under Triple H a little bit. And unlike Tony Khan, he didn't just ignore it and was like, oh, that sucks. Maybe we should do better then. Because the opening 4 matches on this show, 3 of them were in the women's division and featured pretty much everyone on the roster. Yeah. With the exception of Nikki Cross and Trish Stratus and like maybe a couple of others. But it showcased 2 names who are in, the top title contendership picture. It showcased the legendary Becky Lynch alongside a potential up-and-coming newcomer who was trying to show what she can do. And like an actual, felt like a tag team division with the tag team champs at ringside.
You just wait for me to talk about that match.
So, it felt like this show was trying to prove a point.
Yeah.
And I like that. This is like when someone put up a sign at Dynamite that said, book the women's division better. So Tony Khan reacted the following week. Poorly, but he did react the following week and then tried to do something. I would say that this felt like Triple H had that sign, but didn't actually have that sign on TV. He had that sign in the form of that Brandon Thurston graph and was like, don't you know what? F it. We can do better.
Well, I mean, they did it.
And they did better.
They did it on NXT a couple of weeks ago to no fanfare, and kind of I didn't really notice until the show was over. And I think that when we talk about it, that's the point. When we're pushing for equality, me and my feminist agenda, we're doing it not to, take spots away from men. We're just doing it to the point where you don't notice it anymore. And I'll be honest, I didn't notice it in this show. I just noticed that there was these segments. I didn't think about it in terms of that graphic. I didn't think about it in terms of... I notice it when there's only one segment, because I think that's so egregious. But when they're just in and amongst, and they're part of the show, and it's the natural flow, and I'm enjoying myself with the program, I don't notice it. That's what we're after,
Yeah.
So,
and I thought this was really, really great for it. And it kicked off with Nia Jax versus Raquel Rodriguez. A match that I was not really into the idea of, but boy howdy, like these two beat the piss out of each other. They really went for it. Good match, helped by a very, very hot crowd. Again, shout out to this crowd. The finish saw Raquel trying to stop Nia Jax doing the bonsai drop and try to hit a powerbomb. But despite her whole gimmick being, I have an impressive back, the back gave out. And Nia kicked her down, hit the bonsai drop, and got the win. Great win for Nia. It's putting her over strong because she will likely be facing Rhea Ripley for the title either soon, maybe Rumble time, or maybe she'll just have a really good showing in the Rumble. I don't think she's going to win it. But I think we are grooming Nia to be the next. That's why she wasn't involved in any of the finish of the Fatal 5-Way at Crown Jewel. She was very kept separate from that. So I thought this was a very smart bit of business.
The reason Raquel couldn't lift her up is because Nia Jax took her back out a load. Like, before the commercial, she bashed her about, picked her up, and basically wrapped her around the ring post. And then we come back from commercial, and she's stretching her around the ring post like she's a bit of Brighton Rock, like she's some taffy. Smart. It was smart. But Raquel keeps trying it because she knows she can do it when she's on a good day, because she's got that really impressive back, and it just doesn't work for her because she's not doing it. The crowd keeps going, there were 4 guys in the front row standing up, and I recognize that maybe at the beginning some of it might have been ironic, but I think by the end of it they were absolutely into it. And now we have a little hook for Raquel as well. At some point she's going to be able to lift Nia Jax up like that, and it's going to get her a massive pop. Or maybe Jade Cargill will be the one to do it, or this kind of thing. We're setting up the idea that Nia Jax is the Andre the Giant of the women's division in that regard, and you'll see a front slam and everyone will lose their minds.
A great example of the difference of Triple H and Vince era is during the Vince era, he had this thing of Bianca Belair hitting the KOD on Piper Niven, which is a spectacular visual, and it's like incredible how Bianca Belair does it. But she did it for like 3 weeks in a row.
Yeah.
And every time they're like, whoa, can you believe it? It's like, yeah, because this is actually the 3rd time I've seen it in 3 weeks. And it loses its specialty. Triple H is teasing this out. Like, Raquel can do this. She will hit that powerbomb on Nia Jax, whether that is in a couple of weeks' time, whether that's a couple of months' time, whether it's at the Royal Rumble, whenever it is. But that spot will come. And it will be all the better because we didn't get it here.
Yeah.
I thought it was very good. Video promo for Xia Li, and this is when we then got Judgment Day hanging out in the Judgment Den, and Drew walked in, and that's when they agreed that Drew should be the guy.
JD McDonough's wearing a purple shirt. Finally. Good for him. He's in the band.
We got a recap of SmackDown and the excellent Damage CTRL storyline, and then we got Team Cody agreeing that it should be Jey to go out there and face Drew.
Also, because two good points from the Good Guys Lair, which was, this is a really stupid point, but the fact that they were in a room, I was thrilled, because there's been a long time where that segment would have just happened in the corridor, and you get the idea that these people are just aimlessly wandering up and down the backstage, or maybe worse, in front of a big sign that says Raw, or like a black curtain with a, cardboard cutout of the Survivor Series poster. Just locker rooms. I know that it's little details that make it feel like there's a cohesion. The Judgment Day having a lair is hilarious. It's like they're setting up their stall at Comic-Con every single time. But I kind of like it. I kind of like the idea that they get in, they make their own little home.
Little den.
Yeah, I like it. So stuff like that really works for me. But they also mentioned that Cody was speaking to Aldis about whether or not SmackDown talent could be in their team, kind of thing, which gives him a reason to be there, aside from the other things he was maybe they're doing as well. So again, it's all these little details where I'm like, you pulling it back bit by bit. Well done.
We then had Becky Lynch and Xia Li. If I may just very quickly pop on my cynical hat. If I may just pop on my Grumpers hat.
Got a beautiful feathered plume.
And I'm just going to pop it up for just a moment here. why beat Xia Li the night before she's fighting for the NXT Women's Championship?
Yeah.
Why didn't you just save this match till next week? Because you also can't beat Becky on this match. She's on the pay-per-view. So you were booked in, you had this match and you were like, well, we don't really want to beat Xia Li because she's fighting for the title. We don't really want to beat Becky Lynch because she's on the pay-per-view. So let's have Becky Lynch win because she's the biggest star, and also Xia Li shouldn't be beating Becky Lynch right now. But does that help Xia Li going for the women's title tomorrow? Absolutely not. So I would say, let's just put a pin in this, and we'll move this till next week, where those factors do not impact this match.
I see your point. I think it's a fair one. I don't. Doesn't bother me that much.
You wouldn't do it with Becky. If Becky was fighting for the NXT Women's Championship the following night, you would not pin Becky Lynch.
Yeah, but Becky Lynch isn't Nia Jax, sorry, isn't Xia Li. Xia and Nia. I know what you're saying, I agree with the point. I saw a few other people say it online as well. It is a thing, and it is something that I thought when they're coming out. I'm like, well, how do you sort of protect them? The only thing I can really come up with is the fact that Becky Lynch is the dominant woman in this division across, the board kind of thing. So like, it's hard. Xia Li's not going to beat Becky Lynch. That said, you could have done something with it. Like I thought that they would. I thought that they would in certain moments, and they didn't. I don't know. It's a fair point.
Yeah, I wouldn't have done it. And I think, moving this to next week, fix that issue. Again, they did it later on tonight. Like Chad Gable's fighting for the Heritage Cup on NXT, and Nakamura just beat him. So like, well, that doesn't help NXT tomorrow. Like, if your whole thing is we're trying to like promote NXT, I don't think you should be beating the number one contenders to things on Raw. But that's just me. Maybe it's not just me, but it certainly was me for this show.
But that's just me.
And they even showed Lyra at ringside as well to promote the fact that Xia Li is. So yeah, it's not a great bit of business. However,
it's also I think it's not the worst thing in the world though. Is the thing to have a match with Becky Lynch this good.
Oh, well, that's the thing, is that, like, so if I'll take off my cynical cap, because this match was excellent.
Yeah.
Like, this match was awesome.
Yeah.
Because Xia Li is wrestling's dumbest character.
Yes, she has been, yeah.
She's a bad character, and she really has got this sheen of her of, oh, you're not quite main roster ready.
Yeah. And
could have done with another year in NXT.
So the two things to that point that I'll get out of the way now are the entrance needs work, I think the music, the visuals, and the time it takes far too long. It's kind of awkward. And she needs to pick up the pace a little in her work. I think she's impressive. I think she looks great. I like her offense. She has the energy of a video game character sometimes, where she'll do a move and then she'll get into position and then get ready to do the next one. And it's like you need to find that flow between the moves. And that's the thing across the board. There are many wrestlers of all genders who need to do the same thing. Other than that, now go.
So Becky Lynch went out of her way to make her look awesome. They've done a lot with Xia Li over the last few weeks with the concussion kick and stuff, and she took out Becky Lynch and got herself DQ'd from a battle royal. She knocked out Indy Hartwell. She knocked out Candice LeRae. But like, Becky went out of her way in this match to put over Xia Li in defeat. Like, this is putting someone over in defeat. She was made to look great. Again, I wouldn't be in for a title match, but she was made to look really good coming out of this. The best that Xia Li has looked in her entire WWE run, both main roster and in NXT. And it's all down to Becky Lynch. Lynch her contract's coming up next year.
Pay her whatever she wants.
Absolutely that. You need a Becky Lynch on your roster. She is so great. And 2023 has been a fantastic year for her because she's not been in the title picture with Rhea Ripley because they've been saving that for when they do it at WrestleMania. So instead, she has spent her 2023 feuding with a legend to get over Zoe Stark, and has then gone down to NXT to try and get over Stratton, get over Lyra, just try and like build up a whole new roster, a whole new generation of talent in this company. And she's doing it.
Yeah.
She is absolutely fan-flipping-tastic. This match was excellent. They had some really good near falls. It went back and forth. Xia Li escaped the disarmer. They had a double down spot on the outside. Both got back in at 9 to beat the 10 count. Lynch ducks the concussion kick and hits the manhandle slam for the win. Very, very good match.
She's spoken a lot about wanting to be that person for the next generation of women that her generation didn't have. So by that, she means, oh, you're a new talent on the roster. You can work with an Edge, or you can work with, Kofi Kingston, who's been around for a while. You can work with the Daniel Bryan. You can work with Randy Orton. You know, all these people that have been around either for a really long time or legends who come back in and do a spot. The women's division, with all respect to the Divas era prior and then the handful of legends that came around in the Attitude era, the women's division don't have those people. Becky Lynch wants to be that person. She said it in those exact words. Her little run with the NXT women's title for me was proof positive that what we need is a little mid-card title for the women's division. I know that too many titles is a thing. I at the time was like, arguably we need this more than the women's tag division, although I'd like to have those too. And then we got a women's tag match later on, which gave me all the reasons for a women's tag division. When she was the NXT women's champ, her going to all the different brands and facing all these people, it was such a great opportunity, and the fruits of that are being born in Tegan Nox being a regular presence on TV, Lyra Valkyria, Tiffany Stratton both being, over. There was a moment in this match where Becky was insisting that the crowd get going. She was insisting that the crowd be there for it. And it worked. It just worked. There was the moment where they both managed to beat the count at one point. They're on the outside. And when they both did that, I was like, oh, that put me in mind of the Becky and Charlotte one where they nearly beat the count together. There was a lot of going on here that I just love it.
Yeah, fan of this.
This is what I want to see.
I was a big fan of this. And then after the match, Damage CTRL showed up and the rest of Team Belair / Flair came down to even up the odds. I think that's the War Games match I'm most excited for.
I 100% agree. Can I have a minute on Damage CTRL?
Go for it.
Because we don't get to talk about them because they're on SmackDown. And I'm obsessed with them a little bit at the moment.
That's so cool.
And I keep thinking about them and what could be and what it means for the division going forward and things like that. And again, it's the spinning plate stuff. It's all the different narratives, all of the different things going on. Becky and Charlotte, what's that look like as a team? And I'm someone who has a weird parasocial relationship. I like everyone to be friends. I want them to hug it out. I don't know. So there's a little part of me that's, thinking about that. There's also the fact that in this moment, Bayley is wearing Asuka's shirt. She's not wearing the Damage CTRL shirt. She's wearing Asuka's merchandise because Bayley is desperate for friends. But I don't think that it's going to work out for them. I think Bayley's eating a loss at Survivor Series, and the team are going to kick her out. But that when Asuka joined and they had that little hugging moment, Io and Kairi and Asuka are having a little cuddle, and then Becky's like, "Can I be involved in the hug?" Having previously earlier on in the show said, "I'm not a hugger anymore. Don't do that." And then she wants to be involved. Dakota kind of having to basically lie to Bayley in order to make her think that these things are her idea. All of this story is amazing. Those pro shots they took backstage, they look so cool. This is maybe a comparison that stretches it a bit too far, but there was a conversation I was having with someone on Twitter about, they were like, isn't it reductive to chuck all the Japanese women together and have them be the foreign heels team? I'm like, well, first of all, Dakota Kai is not Japanese, neither is Bayley. But second of all, we're getting kind of a Bullet Club. Like, there's this gang of like foreign, the whole point of the Bullet Club is they were the foreign heels together, no?
Yeah. They were the Gaijin group that came. It was less just they were foreign. It's also they were bringing Western ideals. They were bringing interference into Japanese wrestling, which wasn't there previously.
So they
were bringing Western wrestling to the East.
So my argument is this is the opposite of that. I'm not saying it's exactly on that level. I wouldn't say it's exactly on that level. It's far too early days to go there. But the idea of this team, we've got Julia in the conversation to come over here. AZM the other day was saying she's going for the New Japan Strong Women's title, and then she was like, and then I want to come for Io Sky. Oh my God. And then, I keep thinking of this. They kick Bayley out, and who do they get to come over and be the new boss? Mercedes Moné. Pay her whatever she wants. Let her be Mercedes. I don't care. I don't even need Sasha Banks as the name. Let her be Mercedes Moné, and she leads this group. There's so much you can do with that. The idea that they're bringing this unit together, and they bring those Eastern ideas into the Western wrestling. There's something in that. It's a really exciting thing that we've never really had in this division before. And I'm really passionate about it.
I'm way more into Damage CTRL than I am pretty much anything else in WWE right now. For a lot of the reasons that you just said there, I'm super excited for this group. Like, I don't need to just add like Julia to it and this and the other. Like, I don't need like that. But I don't need this to be the NWO. Like, I don't need this to be Bullet Club. But I like them as an act. And one of the reasons I like them as an act is because I love Bayley. And I love this idea. This is going to lead to our Bayley face turn, which we haven't had for so long now. She's had this incredible heel run, And that's going to lead to a very good babyface run off the back of it, where she can go up against the baddies that kicked her out of the group that she started. Like, I think that is a fantastic little story, particularly if you do bring back Mercedes Moné. That was my pitch months ago. So months ago, it was a crown jewel I made that pitch. So I'm happy that a lot more people are on board with my ideas now. Thank you, Fantasy Booking Warfare. And like, I think this has got a lot of legs to be the best story, because this is going to carry SmackDown.
I agree.
SmackDown does not have Roman. SmackDown no longer has John Cena. So SmackDown needs something big to carry it through for the rest of the year, going into Rumble season.
We're getting out of the turgid bit now. We're getting into the good bit.
And I think Damage Control for SmackDown can be that linchpin, that really, like, I've got to tune into SmackDown to see what is the next stage of this Damage Control storyline, particularly because I don't have any Bloodline. I don't have any John Cena. The Rock sure ain't coming back. So so Damage Control can be that. I'm really, really excited for them. Ludwig Kaiser.
And his lovely nipples.
So, man, stop making...
Do you remember that video?
Yeah, oh yeah, when he was a work of art.
And he just had nipples?
Yeah.
What happened to that?
Well, he came out looking like a work of art for his match.
That was it?
Yeah, that's it. That's his
Sometimes
gimmick.
I think I was drunk when that happened.
Well, look, I feel like I'm drunk every time I watch an episode of Raw, because I don't know why you would want to try and break up Imperium.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to break this group up.
Yeah.
Because he and Vinci argued, and Kaiser told Vinci that you need to stay backstage for my match with Johnny Gargano. And the second he said that, I was like, all right, well, Vinci's coming out and you're losing then. And that's exactly what happens. Johnny Gargano didn't actually get his entrance. But this crowd was so hot, they actually chanted Johnny Wrestling at one point. That's how hot this crowd were for WWE today. And, yep, Vinci came down. He caused a distraction, even though Kaiser had the match set up to win. And then Gargano won. I'm tired of the template of this DIY Imperium feud, because these matches, they have had tag matches, they have had singles matches, and every single one of them has finished the same way, which is, it is either interference by Imperium, the other member of Imperium, or it is Imperium distracting each other into losses. And I'm kind of done with it now.
Yeah.
I'm actually ready for these two to move on, and it feels like their feud has barely gotten started.
Yeah. There's that's absolutely fair, and I completely agree with you. There's a format to WWE matches now, I've noticed, which is a little bit of action, tiny little bit of action, then we go to the break, and then you better believe when we come back from the break, it's going to be on fire. Because that was this
only just noticed that, Dan?
I'm being hyperbole. But this one in particular was one of them. And, like, you know, there's the diving Hurricane Rana, which is on my list of moves that will always pop me. There was a move where Kaiser used Gargano's momentum to do like a tilt-a-whirl on him and faceplant him onto the ground, which was just magic. I was like, there's Johnny Gargano. This is what I've been waiting for. All of that said, that part's right. You know.
Yeah.
I agree with you on that.
Yeah, I'm tired of seeing Imperium try to be broken up. Backstage, Green and Viper were chatting with Adam Pearce, and then everyone walked in to stand in a row. The other tag team, so Natty and Tegan, the Party Girls, and Candice and Ivy.
I hate hats.
Sorry, Maxine and Ivy, rather. And Maxine actually walked up to Adam Pearce to talk about something else, and accidentally got her into this number one contendership match. And then when Ivy and I was like, oh, that's not what we came to talk about, Maxine goes, cheers!
I live.
So good. So great. We cut back to, and we had a promo for Backlash in France.
Quick note, though, for any Americans who might be coming over for Backlash in France, the Eiffel Tower is a 5-hour drive away from Lyon. They're very far away. I know this is their way. This is what Americans think of Europe, but you're not going to Paris, all right? You're going somewhere else.
But still, it's fairly close.
It's not.
Yeah, it is only a 5-hour drive.
That's too long a drive.
You can get the train.
Don't want to.
Well, that's your problem, bud.
I like Paris.
No one else does. And then we cut back to the Judgment Den, where Rhea and Dom were having a chat, and they found Shayna and Zoe Stark were hanging out, playing cards. Zoe cut a promo, but, you know, Rhea said, I'm going to win. Then all of a sudden we just cut to the ring and there's 8 women in there, and I was like, "Whoa! It's the match now, I guess. It's the Party Girls versus Maxine and Niall versus Tegan and Natty versus The Way." And this match was all over the place. It was quite sloppy at times, but good fun. And it was good fun because Maxine Dupree and Ivy Nile were incredible within this match. It sucks that Maxine was the one that then took the pin. Like, and I love Tegan Nox, and I want to see the best for Tegan Nox. But when Tegan Nox won and she pinned Maxine, I did go, No, that's a shame.
Yeah.
But I thought Maxine and Ivy Nile were fantastic in this match.
They were. And I also want to give a shout out to Chelsea Green and Piper Niven on commentary, because that's how guest commentary should work. Also, I love that Piper Niven is kind of morphing into Chelsea Green as well. Like they're making more sense as a pair, which is really great. I love it. She kept calling him Matthew Cole.
It's the Chris Jericho thing of calling them by the wrong name. Which
was great. I also had been really irritated by Michael Cole coming back from that segment where they'd all been asking for a match or whatever, with him going, but Adam Pearce wishing he wasn't at his job. These henpecking women. It was a little bit like, oh, come on, Michael.
Michael Cole asked her the same question 5 times, which is...
Michael Cole had an off night.
Which one of these teams do you want to face? And Chelsea Green was like, dude, I've already answered that question.
With a funny joke.
I'll
say it every time.
I'm not going to keep doing the same funny joke, bud.
Meanwhile... there was some really... It started sloppy, but there was some really nice stuff. Candice and Indy had a lovely double team. Same with the Party Girls. Consistency in the division, not just plonking women together all the time. Although, speaking of plonking women together, at least Natty and Tegan had matching gear, which I really appreciate. But I really want to put over Maxine Dupree, because there were 2 moments in this. Well, I mean, there were so many moments in this match, but 2 in particular stuck out to me, where she hit a really good move. She did a really great chain sequence. It wasn't like the most tight I've ever seen. She's a novice, but she hits it. She takes him down, and she just sort of stands up and she goes, "Thank you." And then she's like overcome by this rush of being able to do it. The same thing happens when she does like a little moonsault or a dive off the second rope to the outside. She has the same one, and you get this incredible shot from underneath of her being like, "Oh," because like she's gone from being this valet to a pair of male models to fancying Otis to suddenly being trained to be a wrestler. And she's actually getting quite good at it. And I love it. Like, I was watching it. I'm like, I'm sorry, no takebacks. You might be one of my favorite wrestlers of the year. I just love what she's doing.
It took me back to the summer of this year when Alpha Academy was the best thing on Raw.
It's so simple, but it's so effective. And she sells it so brilliantly. And it's that thing of...
I've missed it.
I can tell she really cares.
I have missed this quite a bit, actually.
And
because you and I were so into this during the summer and wanted to... Like, this was my favorite thing on Raw was Alpha Academy. And since the Gunther match, they've cooled them off so massively that when she was in this match, and all of a sudden, like, it was Maxine again. And I'm like, yes,
she's still learning.
I love this.
Yeah.
I remember, all of a sudden, I was like, I forgot how much I was so into the character.
And I said on Twitter that she might be one of my favorites of the year. She might be one of my best wrestlers of 2023, no takebacks. And a couple of people replied being like, well, actually, I think best should be safe or something. And I'm just like, hang on. First of all, it's subjective. But second of all, my point is she's doing brilliant work. Like, it's not like, I'm not saying she's Will Ospreay, but she's doing fantastic work with this character. It's really entertaining, and she deserves massive credit, and we should use it to shout about. People are going to be mad, whatever we say. We should shout about this great work that we're really enjoying. It was brilliant. She did such a good job.
I thought she was great. I thought Ivy Nile was brilliant with her as well. And as I said, like, I love Tegan Nox, but when she pinned her, I was genuinely gutted because I wanted to see Maxine. But that's great. Let's save Maxine and Ivy for another time.
Yeah. They've got other things to talk about, apparently.
Let's just do this Tegan Natty tag match because I need these two far away from each other. They have negative chemistry. Like, they have, like, it feels like they've met each other for the first time every time they've interacted. So I want to get these two far away from each other. So let's do that tag match and split these two up so we can go in different directions. But this was a thumbs up from me. I had a good time with it. Less good is Gunther scolding Kaiser and stop trying to break up Imperium. Adam Pearce then had an argument with all of the other male tag teams standing in a row, and he said, well, we'll just do the same match we just did for them, but we'll do it for you, and we'll do it next week.
He didn't. He said Tag Team Turmoil, which is a different format, and I love Tag Team Turmoil, so I'm very happy about that. But I also love that he's got a weedy little intern. Did you see that?
No.
At the end of the segment, he goes over and he's like, get me Nick Aldis on the phone. I assume to do something about this Tag Team Turmoil match and have a conversation, but Nick Aldis is behind him. So he comes over and he's like, oh, we can have a conversation now. And they have a little stare off. But it was this weedy little guy with an iPad. And he's like, oh, yeah. And then he runs off. And I was like, that little intern could be me. I've never been represented before in a wrestling show. That was lovely.
Or we're going to come on to that in a little bit, actually, of being represented on a show. Because this next segment was fabulous. The Miz had a face-to-face with Gunther. And Miz opened up here talking about how, like, I have always been about respect. And Gunther comes out, and okay, small detail number one that I absolutely loved about this segment: he calls him Mike, because the Miz is a lame WWE character gimmick name. Gunther is a serious, actual athlete wrestler, so he's not going to refer to someone by a silly comedy, goofy name like the Miz. He didn't call him by his real name, Mike. So he always calls him Mike, and I love that little detail. That's proper. That's Walter. That.
Well, it's because the Miz is the exaggerated character version of Mike, and and he uses that as his shield. So to cut through that shield is like, you know.
And has this line where he's like, "I don't have a lack of respect for you, Mike. I have zero respect for you." And it was great. That's a great line. And then Miz fires back by talking about the icons of this industry. He's like, yeah, I'm a character. I'm a larger-than-life character. But so was Macho Man Randy Savage. So was Mr. Perfect. So was the Heartbreak Kid Shawn Michaels. So was... I mean, he said Bret Hart, but I don't think that one really counts. But he said, well, when Bret Hart gave someone a kid at ringside sunglasses, I wanted to be that kid. I wanted to grow and be like those guys. And they were all Intercontinental Champion, and that's why I love that belt so much. I wanted to be like those people. I idolized those kids. And I was sort of bullied at school for, idolizing these sorts of people. And he calls Gunther a one-note bore. Effectively, there's a line in the Transformers movie when the Decepticons are trying to decide on who is their new leader, and the Constructicons think they should be the leader, but Soundwave was like, no, it should be me. And one of the Constructicons says, no one would follow an uncharismatic bore like you. That is what the Miz was calling Gunther, was an uncharismatic bore. He's so wrong, but he called him an uncharismatic bore in so many words. And then Gunther just destroyed this poor lad, because he just says, Mike, when you were a kid idolizing those heroes of yours, you were bullied for that. You were bullied because you're a weirdo wrestling fan. And then you grew up thinking that you could be a wrestler. And what happened when you became a wrestler? You were bullied by all of those heroes that you idolized, because they know what I know. You do not belong in this ring. You belong behind the barricade with the rest of the weirdo wrestling fans. That's my champion. He is my champion. He should be the absolute star of everything that this company is doing. He is a magic, perfect wrestler. He's so good. The crowd did not know how to react to this segment. They just started chanting USA because they're like, I don't know what to do here. So they just started chanting USA, and Gunther shot that down as well, being like, well, that's typical. Told you they're weirdo wrestling fans. You just started 3 letters that mean nothing to me. And it shut it down completely. And then he just turns to Miz and he's like, maybe you just need to be bullied some more. What are you going to do about that, Mike? Pie face him, starts pushing around. What are you going to do, Mike? What are you going to do? Yeah, you're going to do something. And the Miz fires up and he fires back and he punches up at Gunther, and then Gunther boots him down with a kick because he is the ring general. He is a pro wrestler. He is the man around these parts. But the Miz is the Miz. So the Miz low blows Gunther and he stands over him after hitting the skull-crushing finale, holds aloft the Intercontinental Championship because he will do whatever it takes to win this belt. This is sports entertainer versus the pro wrestler, and this was a perfect segment to do all of that. I loved this.
I did too. I thought it was absolutely great. At the time, when it first started, I wasn't sure that it was going to get there. I felt it was a little bit loose. I thought it was a little bit unsteady. I think Miz is figuring out this, how to, after 20 odd years of being the Miz, he's figuring out how to be good guy the Miz. And I was like, I'm not sure you're really landing it. And then by the end of it, I was like, oh, you've done it. You figured it out. I don't like a certain attitude online, which is very snobby and very sneery with certain people. I saw like just some stuff about Shotzi and some stuff about Miz. And I don't know. There's an attitude to certain corners of every fandom, really, like separating it from wrestling, that really grinds my gears a little bit, who will take this segment and have it be like, he's put the Miz in his place kind of thing. But I think without the Miz being the Miz, this segment doesn't work.
Doesn't work.
The story doesn't work.
No, it doesn't.
The Miz sells what Gunther's, it buys what Gunther's selling kind of thing. That's why I think this is such an interesting pairing of these two, because they are those polar opposites that you say. And that's why I think the match is going to really deliver. I think, I get fed Chris Van Vliet shorts all the time and on YouTube. And there was an interview with John Morrison where John Morrison was like, "Yeah, anyone to work with the Miz, they'd love to. He does the job really well. Like,
also doesn't hit you, so it's nice.
This is well,
King of soft
you
style.
can't just let it. You can't just let me cook, can you? As the kids would say. But yeah, like it's good. It's that thing of like, there is a respect for the Miz behind the scenes for the work that he's done and for the commitment he's done to taking the Miz, this exaggerated version of himself that probably is quite annoying, and just letting it become his character, and that's how he's able to sustain a career for this long and make the success for himself that he has done. And I loved it as a segment. I thought it was great. I'm really excited to watch the match. I think it will slap.
This match is going to be great.
Yeah.
This match is going to be so good, and they've given you everything you need to know about this segment and this match in this segment. I thought it was so well done. Both of them I thought were fantastic in this segment.
Didn't like Michael screaming, "Do it for all those weirdos."
Yeah, we got like
put me off a bit.
2011 Michael Cole all of a sudden jumped back out like, "Come on, Miz! Come on, Miz!" I was like, "Oh no! Oh no! No, not you! I thought you were banished into the recesses of the past." But no, 2011 Michael Cole reared his ugly crap commentary head, and I've got a real terrible feeling we're going to hear a lot of him.
Yeah, I don't want that
at the pay-per-view.
Well, we won't, because we'll be doing the live stream.
Yeah, if you don't want to hear bad commentary, Michael Cole, come to the live show, because you'll just have us being all loud together, so it's fine. Can I share you my really weird thing about this segment? I'm going to be very personal here, and I'm going to do my best to do this without crying, because I have done that in the past when I've gone to these sorts of levels. Okay, so I was in therapy last year, and one of the reasons I was in therapy is because of my low self-esteem and my lack of self-worth and a lot of these things. And I discovered through my therapy that it was all from bullying when I was a kid. I repressed my bullying. I do self-deprecating humor about myself because I use it as my defense shield against the sort of like very traumatic childhood I had when it came to bullying. One of the reasons I was bullied is because I was the weird kid. I was called a weirdo at school. People bullied me for being the weirdo. Oddly, not for liking wrestling, because the people who
at the time it was kind of
the people who bullied me also liked wrestling.
Yeah.
So it was the one thing we actually got to sort of bond over. When they weren't beating me up, we were talking about what Stone Cold Steve Austin was doing. It was a very weird time. But I was bullied I played video games, I played board games, I played Warhammer 40k, I listened to nu metal. So I was, and I had long hair. So I was, bullied for all these sorts of things. But one of the things that people used to tell me was like, "You're weird. You're a weird kid. You're the weirdo. You're not like everyone else. You're not normal." And that has really stuck with me, and it sort of led me into trying to find like my tribe, trying to find my groups. I made a joke about this on, I think it was Raw earlier this year, with the DX anniversary. Was that last year they did the DX anniversary?
It was the start of this year. I wasn't.
I think it was that. I did the show with you, I'm pretty sure.
Did we?
Pretty sure you and I reviewed it. And there's a line, Corey Graves was on commentary, and he was like, "Hey, if you're not having fun with DX, then you're not part of this tribe." And I was like, "Well, funny enough, that's actually what I'm in therapy over."
yeah, no, I do remember that. Yeah.
So anyway, talking about these things. So I had such a weird time with this segment because, if anything, I'm the Miz in this segment, but the person I'm cheering on the most is Gunther. Well, I'm like, yeah, that's my champ there.
I think that's what I'm saying when I look. Both things can be true. That is what I want from my big villain heel champ. I want him to be that brutal. I want him to say those things that cut to the core of it. I want him to be gloating over making Chad Gable's daughter cry. I want him to be telling The Miz that he's nothing and worthless in this industry, because I want to believe that that's going to light a fire in The Miz to fight back, really. That's why I push back on, and there are certain people online, and even among my friends whose opinions I respect very much, don't think The Miz has any value. And I don't mean you when I'm saying that, before the chat or the comments go a bit mental. Like, The Miz, they just shit on The Miz, excuse me for swearing, but in this case that's what they do. Like, the power of what Gunther was doing was really cutting to the core of trying to be that villain who makes all of us feel that level of insecurity. And I think The Miz is that. I think you have to watch The Real World and see those clips of The Miz being a complete nerd about it and be like, that would be really annoying to be around. But it's that has made him have this level of success. No one, maybe he does punch a little bit soft, maybe he does work a little bit safe, but no one is more committed to trying to make it work for himself and to forcing his way from being a weirdo to being a 2-time Grand Slam champion than The Miz. And it works for me to have, this really powerful monster heel piss all over someone who is kind of like me, because I had the exact same experience as you did in so many different ways. So yeah, it's also complicated because The Miz has been annoying heel for 20 years.
Exactly,
so it's harder to get behind him and see ourselves in him because we've been trained to not see ourselves in him. But
because he's the A-lister, he is above all of us.
But and also this idea that you aren't living up to that bell is not true. It's just objectively not true.
Yeah, I think that's the only. And I'm not going to say any criticism about this segment because it's not, because this segment was perfect. But The Miz being like, you're a one-note joke. I'm like, you're not making. Actually, I think if anything, he's made that title more relevant than anyone has, including you, Mike.
That's what I'm saying. It makes Gunther saying that to Miz. That's what this should be about, not about whether or not Gunther. It's the same with when Gunther was being like, "Oh, it smells here in this town."
Yeah,
that's not Gunther.
That's not Gunther.
We don't need that in this thing. We don't need This is better for what it is. So I completely, I'm with you.
Yeah, I loved this, but it was so great.
Yeah.
But I'll have to talk about this with my therapist now. I'm gonna have to call her up and be like,
hold an iPad and point at the.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to play her the segment and be like, isn't it weird how I'm behind Gunther in this, even though I'm the Miz in this segment? But anyway, we had Seth tell Jey how important it was to win, which we talked about earlier. Valhalla and Ivar cut this wicked promo on Bronson Reed. Bronson Reed got a return promo later on to set up a match for next week. And then the last thing to talk about is Shinsuke Nakamura versus Chad Gable. This is where the crowd were noticeably tired. And Nakamura won.
I don't think Nakamura's been doing a very good job recently.
He's got to save himself for that CM Punk match.
Oh, big time. It's coming. Yeah, I thought it was fine. This match was fine. The Chaos Theory is not a German suplex. They're different things. Michael was having an off day. Got right on my nerves. Oh, he's doing the Chaos Theory. No, he isn't. He's doing a German suplex.
He's doing a deadlift German there, Mike.
And also, when you do a deadlift German, you just sort of gently put Nakamura down. It's probably not going to keep him down for the 3. He called him Angle at one point. He was having an off night. We all have them. I'm sleepy today as well. Yeah. But yeah, it was fine.
Fine's a... I'd say that's a strong word.
You think?
Maybe it was fine. Maybe that's exactly what it was.
Yeah.
Maybe that is the perfect descriptor of this.
It's just so interesting because normally I'm sleepy at the beginning of the show when they're just doing the same Judgment Day run Monday Night Raw promo, and then by the end I'm well in. Honestly, this was the other way around.
I actually felt like I was on the same roller coaster that the crowd was on, right? Because I pretty much peaked at the Miz Gunther segments, and then I never recovered after that.
Yeah,
and then the Randy Orton thing just didn't work for me at the end. But overall, I thought it was a great show. I know I did too. And it's a go-home show, which he's not usually very good at.
Yep.
But he did it well here. So good for you. I gave this a strong 4 out of 5 on the episode, and I stand by it. Let's shout out some of our Patreon backers over at patreon.com/WrestleTalk. If you go over there now, you've got access to the mailbag for this month, the behind the scenes for this month. Tomorrow will be WrestleTalk After Dark. And then the week after that, we recorded this yesterday, myself and Oliver Davis reviewing Survivor Series 2014, which is an incredible main event with stipulations that make no sense and actually undermine the match in many ways, and a dreadful undercard. And if you thought that I've had bad takes on the Miz in the past, wait till you hear my thoughts on Mizdow.
Did you not like Mizdow?
Hated Mizdow.
I like Mizdow.
So my issue I have with Mizdow boils down to that is not what a stuntman does.
No, it isn't what a stuntman does.
So no, a stuntman does not
body double.
No, the stuntman does not watch what the actor is doing and mimic it.
Yeah.
A stuntman takes bumps for actors.
Yeah, that's fair.
So he is not being a stuntman.
He's being
a doppelganger.
Yeah.
But they keep saying on commentary, what a stunt double.
Yeah.
What a stunt double he's being. And it wound me up in 2014 because I felt like I was going mad because I was the only person who was really irritated by this. It pissed me off even more 10 years later because the crowd were going nuts for it. And I was like, well, I can't deny that it's over, but it don't make a lick of sense, and I hate it. But we have a great time because also in that period of time, what a mad couple of weeks this was, by the way. Survivor Series 2014, you had that with the debut of Sting, the WWE debut of Sting. In that same week, the CM Punk podcast with Colt Cabana comes out. The week after that, Vince McMahon is on the Steve Austin podcast.
Oh, God.
Where he talks about the brass rings and why I'm not pushing Cesaro.
What a week.
And and Austin asks him about the Punk podcast and stuff. So we go through all of the Wrestling Observer, like the Figure Fours, everyone's write-ups they've got of all of the Punk podcast fallout, backstage reactions to it. It was a fascinating deep dive, and we suddenly realized we're doing this chat for an episode that's going to come out after Survivor Series, where we might actually see the WWE return of CM Punk at Survivor Series. But anyway, if you're one of our $25 and above Patreon pledge hammers, you get your name read out on... Oh, no, they've already been...
We've done it. We're past that.
In which case, I'll move on then. They weren't crossed out when I started this segment.
They are now.
Do you know what? I'm going to shout out the moderators anyway.
Do it. Go on.
Andy.
Oh, I'm not ready. Guys.
Ian.
James.
Jay.
Sean.
Les.
And Rob.
And of course, Mod Mother Jenna. Thank you all so much to our wonderful moderating team who will be in effect for this coming Saturday when we do Survivor Series live reactions. But we're not just going to be doing them here in the studio. We're going to be doing them live from the Long Arm Pub and Brewery in Shoreditch in London. Don't just take it from me.
Oh.
Let me cue it up. Take it from me. Do you have plans to watch Survivor Series? Well, why not come and watch WWE Survivor Series live and in person with the WrestleTalk team with over 100 other wrestling fans, along with a live version of our Parts of Unknown board game series, No Holds Barred, at the Long Arm Pub and Brewery in London. Not only will we be watching Survivor Series together, but we'll be doing our live reactions to the show from the pub, which means you will have the chance to be on camera and part of the WrestleTalk live experience. This is the best way to watch wrestling pay-per-views, and tickets are available right now. Get your tickets today, and we'll see you there to be part of moments like this.
No, it's Kyrie! It's Kyrie Sane! It's Kyrie Sane! Oh my God! Kyrie Sane is back! It's Kyrie! It's Kyrie Sane!
Dan, while watching that clip, just was like, "Oh no, I'm wearing the same t-shirt there." And then we both realized I'm wearing the exact same outfit in that video as I am today.
Fab. But look, hey, look, it works for you.
Thank you, bud.
You're eating.
It's because I'm going to Hustle tonight. And I wanted to make sure that I looked cool.
Yeah, well,
when I go to a wrestling show.
I think you've nailed it.
So I was like, well, I need to wear my cool t-shirt and wear a nice bit of flannel because that is what will give me the respect that I so crave because of my low self-esteem issues, Dan.
It's all a vicious circle, isn't it?
Let's get into the rest of your alpha chats. Get the rest of them in. Ding, ding, ding. This is your last call. WrestleTalk.com/support. We'll read out all of them above the $5 amount. Charles Berg, who's been a member for 30 months in a row, says, "Adrenaline. My dad is dead. I hear voices in my head." Great IC match promo. Very funny when The Miz says, "We don't respect you," and the crowd went silent.
That's what I mean. They're not getting that part of it right. Yeah. They're getting the part of it one way, just not the other way, and they've not figured that out with Gunther yet.
Trevor TEX says, "I really like the chaotic nature of tonight's episode, and Adam Pearce being fed up of everyone's nonsense. Please, someone get him a drink."
Get it on a t-shirt.
We have an unknown username here, so please do let our moderators know in the live chat. Said, "When I think this show was strong, I was a bit confused in some places. While I think the show was strong, I was confused in some places. Why were there a four-way when Tegan pinned the tag champ last week? If Xia Li is a championship match the next day, why is she losing to the woman who just lost that belt? Where is P.D. Williams?" That last one is obviously the most important question.
Oh, crucial.
But also, excellent point.
Yeah.
Yorkmaster here says, "We need to have a serious conversation about Jey Uso. I don't think he's using the word yeet correctly. I've checked Urban Dictionary. I don't think the meaning has changed. P.S. Good luck, Dan. Dan versus Ollie for the title needs to happen."
It's not going anywhere. On the word yeet, there was a moment when Drew McIntyre threw Jey across the table and went, "That's yeet," which was, that's what yeet means. They're not using it right, but it works.
Andy Madrid said, "I could not express my excitement when it was announced on the show, but I'm sure everyone jumped up and screamed when they announced that Maxine was going to wrestle. Please give her that hot 30 seconds in the Rumble."
Hey, give her the hour-long spot. She's in number one.
Randy's cool too. Kuzu here says, "It's pretty great how Damage CTRL and the women have become the centerpiece of SmackDown over the Bloodline." It's because Roman ain't there. And it's working because they're getting higher viewings than LA Knight and Jimmy Uso. It took a year, but it's nice to see some payoff.
So that's the interesting thing, because if you look at the women's War Games lineup, it's pretty similar to last year's.
Yeah, really.
Damage CTRL plus Rhea and Nikki Cross, so they're not there. Bianca was in it, Becky was in it, Asuka was in it on the good side. So yeah, it's an interesting.
We haven't actually moved that far in a year.
We haven't, but the reason it didn't work for them last year was because they were trying to overcome Bianca and friends, but they were they were being billed as these people who were running around and dominating the division, but they didn't want to take the belt off Bianca, so they could never get the win, and it never let them go. My pitch is that this is the final defeat for Damage Control. Arguably, they need to get the win here, but one more defeat and it's Bayley throwing herself, like pushing someone off to or like putting herself in harm's way to save somebody else, and that's what gets the pin. That's the final loss for Damage Control for me.
As much as I want to see Damage Control win, that's what I'm pushing for.
Yeah.
Is for Bayley to get pinned, because I think that's going to be the most interesting thing for the story.
Yeah.
Matt here says, a solid Raw, and over the last feed, I've noticed some of the people Hunter is trying to get are starting to get a good reaction. On SmackDown, the crowd were into Dragon Lee, and on Raw, there were Johnny Wrestling chants in the Gargano match. Hunter patience will pay off. That's what we said about last week.
Yeah, you've always got to just like build people bit by bit, have good showings. What Becky's trying to do with the women's division. Tegan Nox gets reactions now, which is nice.
Blake Whitehouse said, I'm in the minority, but I'd rather Survivor Series do the elimination tag matches instead of War Games. War Games is convoluted and the second ring is distracting during the normal matches. And the Soul Survivor spot is more dramatic than the Judgment Day Shotzi there to eat the pin. That JD McDonough.
I have, over the past 2 weeks of lists, watched so many Survivor Series elimination matches. I think they're rubbish, or at least I think they're booked rubbish. That's a very personal response. I'm not criticizing you or anybody who likes them, but they take so long, and they've never been able to figure out how to use the narrative properly.
Well, yeah, maybe this will be an incredibly strong take. And I'm willing to have it, people point out to me where I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure there've only been 2 good Survivor Series matches. 2014 and 2016. I
actually quite like the Angle and Lesnar one in 2003.
That's
but,
all right.
Yeah. Oh, Piper versus Flair is fun. Team Piper and Team Flair.
Yeah. There's a few. There's some fun matches.
But when I think outstanding,
like some of the best matches I've ever seen.
When I think of like my favorite Survivor Series matches ever, they aren't on the list.
Yeah. Like
honestly,
it's those 2 matches.
Yeah.
Really.
I do think of Elimination Chamber. I think of like the triple threat tables. I think of War Games. I think of Lesnar and Bryan. Like I think of so many things before I get to
Lesnar
Elimination
Goldberg.
Tag. Yeah. Oh yeah. Great shout. Yeah.
And Lesnar AJ.
Yeah.
Could have been Jinder. I also, because I hate the Raw versus SmackDown thing and brand warfare and all that sort of stuff. So I don't think it amounts to much. Benny Boy here says, I know it's not Raw related, but what wrestler would you like to see on I'm a Celebrity? I'd love to see Ospreay or Grado.
Mickey James.
Well, Grado would be my answer because he's an actual celebrity here in the UK.
That's true.
I'd put Grado on that.
Ospreay wants to be on Strictly.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Ospreay would be great on Strictly. Yeah. Bruv. Ket here says, let's be real. The 10 men in the War Games match are still going to feud with each other afterwards. It was like that last year with the Bloodline. KO and soon after Sammy feuded them for 6 months afterwards. I'm going to bet money that it will happen.
I think the difference is that was sort of early on enough in that story.
Yeah.
This does feel. You are right. This does feel like the end of it.
Yeah. I'm also going to. A few people pointed out the Team Austin versus Team Bischoff because it's got that really good Shawn Michaels performance.
That's a good one.
Luke Owen's #1 fan here said, I really like how no one knows what's happening after War Games. Who is Gunther feuding with? Kaiser? Perhaps Jey? Sammy? What about Seth in the World Heavyweight Championship? Does he do something with Cody or Randy? And Judgment Day is the start of an implosion arc. It's exciting times.
That's what I was saying me and Pete were having this conversation, I think after we finished recording. There's so many different avenues that they could go down, and I like not knowing. Like, I don't love having everything fed back to me online. I like to be a little bit surprised. I like that I've predicted that Damian Priest is going to cash in every single pay-per-view since he won it, and he hasn't. I appreciate it.
Andy Madrid here says, another chat for Thanksgiving. Hello from San Diego. I don't know if it's on purpose, but I love the post-Trish feud about setting the groundwork for future women. Becky has been wrestling so many up-and-coming women. Women's War Games is going to eat.
Thank you for saying things like that, by the way. And I know there are so many people who are also on this train. There were some weird comments on the lists recently about because the top 2 were, Becky Lynch and the Women's War Games, and they were like, oh, like women's wrestling, it doesn't matter unless it's a bra and panties match. And I'm like, well, way to show that you've never, interacted with a woman before. But I know that there are so many people who appreciate the art of women's wrestling. So I'm like,
if I ever see someone say that, I'm like, oh, cool. So I don't need to take you seriously.
Yeah, you're not someone
I can. That is a comment I can easily skip past because you are just saying that because you think it will get a reaction.
Yeah.
And also, by the way, Andy, it's very much on purpose.
Yes, very much.
And Kevin here says, I'm turning 28 today.
Happy birthday!
Happy birthday! I joined the community about 5 years ago, and I'm glad I did. Thanks to all at WrestleTalk, Parts Unknown, No Rolls Barred. Your community has been amazing. Won't be there this Saturday, but I plan to come in January, so I hope there will be a Royal Rumble watch party. Much love, Jam That Jam. Well, Kevin, yes, that is the plan. That's what we would very much like to do. And lastly, Mr. Top has been a member for 10 months in a row, and we've got some last-minute Patreon Pledge Hammer shout-outs. Bask in its glory, Nate Lee, and Rue the Day, Rory O'Brien Kelly. That is going to do it for this episode of the WrestleTalk podcast. Tomorrow, it's Dan and Pete doing their predictions for Survivor Series, and then on Thursday, it will be the AEW Dynamite review. And then this coming Saturday, there's no SmackDown review this Saturday because we're getting ready for our live show. So we'll be doing live reactions to Survivor Series from the Long Arm Pub and Brewery.
You have to sleep in the morning.
And then myself and Oliver Davis will be reviewing Survivor Series the following day. And then Dan and I will be back for Collision stuff. Although I probably won't be on that Collision show because I'm doing the overnight on Sunday and then I'm working. Sorry, doing the overnight on Saturday and then I'm working Sunday. So I probably will take a day off.
Also, we're doing Wednesday Night War tomorrow on Parts Unknown. So you got to be there for that to watch me finally take Laurie out.
Well, yeah. I mean, can you? Because
I'm only a bit behind.
It doesn't feel like you can though, because you keep losing.
I still have a network special card that I didn't use for this purpose exactly.
Yeah, well, I mean, I wasn't saying that. I was just saying what I'm seeing in front of me, which is you keep losing.
What's this? This is a sign of my greatness.
Nothing to do with the Wednesday Night War.
No, but it's proof that I know what I'm doing.
Are you winning currently?
Not right now.
Well, that'll be... So join in tomorrow to see if Dan can stop losing at the Wednesday Night War on my GM mode on WWE 2K23. That's over on Parts Unknown. Thank you all so much for watching. We will see you tomorrow. I've been Luca and DAD. That has been the Professor, the Truth, the Loser. So the Jam That Champion, Dan Layton. Jam That Jam.